Hello, my name is Karen Ziebarth, and I'm here today to help bring awareness to leukemia. I was diagnosed with leukemia back in 2009, and most people won't even say the C word, cancer. They try to avoid it, but I'd like to be here to bring more awarenesses to the different kinds of leukemia that they have. I first found out that I had leukemia when I woke up in the ICU, and I looked around the room and I saw all the pumps and all the equipment and blood hanging, and I was thinking, what happened? Why am I getting blood? I was very, very, very shocked. Before I woke up in ICU, I went about my normal life. I was tired, I was exhausted, but I kept going because I'm mom of 3 kids and working the night shift. That's why I assumed I was tired. Had this really bad headache, and I ended up going to the emergency room at one hospital. I don't remember a whole lot at the hospital. Then I got transferred to another hospital where I got put in ICU. I had a near-death experience where I actually got to experience the most wonderful, powerful, awesome event in my whole entire life. The near-death experience is where I actually came out of my body and I was floating, and I felt this most powerful, wonderful, wonderful love, and I got to see my mama again. And I was so happy and so excited, and all the love and emotional feelings. And my mom told me that I had to go back. I didn't want to come back, but she said I had to go back. And so that's when I woke up in the ICU bed at the hospital, and not very happy, because the place that I was at was wonderful, which was heaven, which was wonderful and full of love and full of my relatives that have passed on before me. It took a little while for them to determine that I had leukemia, because they had to rule everything else out. Because when I went into the first hospital, my complaints was a headache and the blood work was way off, so they did the blood work several times, and that's why they sent me to the other hospital, because of the blood work was so out of whack. I had almost no white blood cells, and red blood cells was really low, and the platelets were critical. They were like at 11. Well, then they gave me plasma to hold me over. Then I was having seizures. That's why I had to go to the other hospital. So Dr. Oob came running, which I don't remember. My husband says the story all the time, how Dr. Oob came running into ICU, and it's like, oh, they must be going to a code. But he was actually coming from the lab to run to the station to hurry up and get on treatment right then, right now, because he knew what it was, what he saw on the slide, and he knew I had to be treated right then. And so it was probably that night when he told my family, but I wasn't able to understand what was being said because I was in ICU and I was in and out of a coma for a bit. But when I finally came to, they told me, and I was very shocked and very surprised. So that's when I got the news in ICU. So I didn't take it very well at first, because I was sad and upset and all the emotions, and very sick. And a lot of people, I couldn't have people come see me because I was in isolation, because my levels were so low that I was almost like it was being alone. So you start with Atra. Atra is the first thing that helps the bone marrow to start producing, or trying to produce, the red blood cells and the white blood cells and the platelets. Where in my case, I was in catastrophic, so I was not producing any red blood cells or white blood cells, platelets. I had too many of the promyelocytic cells accumulating in the bone marrow, so it wasn't going out in the stream. And so the protocol, of course, is start Atra and then you start idarubicin, but they've changed treatments up lately, and the treatments is a lot easier than when I had it. Mine was for 2.5 years, and at one point I was on 3 different kinds of chemos at the time, which gave me all kinds of side effects. I'm in remission, which is great. The side effects that you can have could be bleeding gums, bruises, stuff to look for before, tiredness and stuff. I didn't have all those symptoms. I was really tired before, and then I had a really, really, really bad headache. But afterwards, when I did all the chemo, I had the chemo treatment, the chemo symptoms of the nausea and the vomiting and the diarrhea. But and long-term effects that I have was it damaged my heart. I have cardiomyopathy now, and I have a pacemaker defibrillator because I go into a lot of bad heart rhythms. I've been in VTAC and VFib and AFib. So it monitors me and paces me. So in the long run, it has damaged my body in many, many different ways. But I'm still alive, and I'm still here, and I'm staying strong. I think my mission since I came back is to help other people and tell other people, look what I've gone through, so that I could be here to support other people. And I try to help and support other people to get them to realize that we can do this together is better than alone. And I want to be able to help people, newly diagnosed people, or people that's been diagnosed for a while, because I had been diagnosed for a while before I actually reached out to get help myself. And so when I did reach out and I did get help, it was amazing. The Night Sisters, I was strangers before, and now we're sisters and love each other and support each other and together forever. And that's what I think I'm here for, is I think along the way in these years that I've been here, is I have influenced and affected and left an impression on many, many, many people, and I hope on all the good ways, but I hope they think, look how strong Karen is. Even though there was times when I was very weak and vulnerable, I made and I came out strong and stronger than before.
I've been a cheerleader for my mom for a very long time, and I don't know if you call it a role, but I've always tried to just be there for her in any way that I could, because when she was first diagnosed a long time ago, when we were still trying to find out what she had, I remember she came into the kitchen and she was looking for medicine for a headache, and she was going through all the medication, the ibuprofen, but she kept throwing it up and she didn't know why, and she was frustrated and she was in pain. And I went and I said, "Mama, what's wrong?" And she said, "I'm looking for something for a headache." But she kind of yelled at me. My mom never yelled at the kids because that wasn't what she did, and I thought it was weird. So I called my dad, who was off, and I said, "Daddy, something's wrong with Mama. We need to take her to the hospital." So we took her to the hospital later that night, and that's when we found out, when we took her to Lolly Kemp, that she had something much more dire than just a headache. It was actually a cancer. And I remember a couple weeks later, we was at my grandmother's house, and it was about a week later, my dad snuck us into North Oaks to see our mom because they thought it might be the last time we saw her. And she was still unconscious at the time. She was kind of coming in and out of it. And I don't know how my dad composed himself, but he somehow was able to look at all three of his kids and say, "Guys, your mom has cancer." And those words hit like a train, it really does. And Mama was, it was a rough place, and she wasn't always able to be herself, so I always felt that it was kind of my job to be there the best of my abilities to help her in any little way that I can, if I can. And I've just been trying to do that ever since for the last 13 years.
The reason why I had a headache is because I was bleeding out in my brain, and I didn't know it at the time. I was in DIC, early stage of DIC, and in nursing school, when you learn about DIC, they say death is coming. That's not what it stands for, but that's the way we learn it. So I was bleeding out, actually all over my body, but the headache was because I was bleeding out in my brain.
It means a lot to me because she's been through a lot. She's been through cancer. She's been through the Atra, which the doctors describe as not as a healing, but as a poison to something that would be stronger than the leukemia itself. And because of that, she's been through heart issues. She's been through strokes. She's been through so many things. So it's like to see that she has a platform to where she's able to stand up and be with a whole bunch of people that are trying to accomplish very similar goals is a very beautiful thing.